human music.
All right. So, it's interesting.
What's interesting?
There we go. That's interesting.
It's interesting. Saban has a new profile picture.
Where's Saban? Oh, yes, I saw that the other day.
It's Dr. Saban now, apparently.
What's up, Doc? And what's up, Doc? Saban is just trying to Saban. He's saving the world one day at a time, y'all. Yeah. All right. Yo, what's up, everybody? Welcome to JavaScript Jam Live every Wednesday at 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. You can come and have a blast with us talking about everything web development and JavaScript related. If you're not hyped right now, then I don't know why you're even in here. Yeah, get hyped. Nah, for real though, thank y'all so much for hanging out with us today. We're going to have a really good time talking about everything WebAuthn, React performance, tips, all that good stuff. We got our man Will Johnson in the house. And Henri. What's up, everybody? Let's go ahead and invite Henri up here too.
Yeah, I sent invites to
okay. Yeah, I figured.
I just Dev as well.
Another one out.
Will, you want to introduce yourself? It looks like you already got your speaker role going.
Yo, what's up, everybody? Thanks for having me. My name is Will. I'm a senior developer advocate at Auth by Auth, and I hate passwords, so by default, I love WebAuthn, and also looking forward to hanging out in the beautiful Miami if it's not raining next week.
Yes. Hopefully hopefully it's a nice time and not too much rain, like you were saying. Although Florida, it's like every 30 minutes, right? I mean, that's kind of how it works.
Yeah, but hopefully the forecast I was looking at on Apple Weather, it was saying it was going to rain like every day, like thunderstorms and stuff. So I hope they're wrong,
bro.
And the wind blows, like in Costa Rica, and then it misses Florida or something. You know how weather works.
Right.
I actually used to be a weatherologist in my previous life.
Weatherologist. Yeah, weatherologist. Right. Yeah, that's what it is. Awesome. Well, super happy to have you here, man. Super glad. We're really excited for Miami as well. And just to hear more today about what that's going to be like a little bit of taste here and there, a little touch of some things, sneak peek, if you have or will you have you. And then, yeah. So I do want to say this real quick before we really just get started with everything. After we do one more introduction with Henri and then myself and Anthony, I want to just say that if you're a beginner or you're advanced web developer, whether you've been just starting this game or been in it for a minute, it doesn't matter. We want to hear from everybody. So please feel free to request to come up here, ask questions, make statements, comments, facts, opinions. It don't matter. We want to hear it all. Okay. Why? Because that brings more value to the space. All right. If you are feeling like you have an inkling just to have a little bit of a question out there or something, please come on up. Like, don't be afraid. It's going to be fun. For real. We are very open to everybody commenting and talking, right? Like I said, more value, the more the merrier, right? That's the term, okay? We mean it. Very, very much an open mic concept. All right. With that being said, we'll pass it off to Henri real quick, and he can make an intro of himself as well. And then Anthony and I will kick it off, and we'll go from there. Henri.
Good afternoon, folks. Can I be heard? Because I'm using this bizarre contraption here, so I just want to make sure you guys can hear me.
Yeah, you sound good.
All
Sound
right,
great,
thank
bro.
you so much. Good afternoon, folks. Thanks for having me, first of all. My name's Henri, and I work at this fantastic company called Catchpoint, and I've been there for, let me see, about a year and a half right now. And I joined the team. I joined the company after they acquired this amazing tool called Web Page Test, and I was brought on to sort of grow that pie of the business. Simply because it was probably one of the best tools, if not the best around, by some, that wasn't really well known, And at the same time, this was happening at a point where performance was finally becoming what we like to say in French called du jour. And people are paying, or we're starting to pay a lot more attention to it. So the timing was perfect there. That being said, I've been hanging out the performance space for a little while right now. Back when it was, fairly lean, we'll say. We'll sit there and talk about performance with folks, and people be like, "Oh, so you dance?" And it's like, "No, I don't." So I'd have to mention web performance. But now when you mention performance, people pretty much know what you're talking about. So yes, I'm going to be in Miami next week. And it's actually one of my favorite talks because I don't want to say it's like interactive, but it's a little interesting. It's an idea that I had for several years ago as a lightning talk, and I expanded it to a sort of like a full talk, talking about performance actually in general. Because, and I'll get into this probably during this talk, but I think as there's been an increase in attention to performance, I also believe that that increase should also be sort of, this should be kind of like an added bit of literacy as well when it comes to performance, because it's not what it used to be. Performance is a little bit more complicated. And I have a really good time sort of like talking about the need for literacy and kind of going over some technologies and topics around perf. So yeah, that's a bit of a ramble, but that's what I'm here for. And next week, obviously, as well.
Hey, we love the rambles, okay? We can do that all day. We love it. Talk. Absolutely. Yeah, that's what we're here for, right? Spaces where we chat it up. Thank you so much, Henri, for the intro and, giving a little bit of what you're going to be doing this week and this next upcoming week in React Miami. So excited for that. So awesome. So yeah, I'm Scott Steinlogi, and I'm the technical community manager at Edgio and co-host of the JavaScript Jam. And Anthony?
Hello, my name is Anthony Campolo. I am a developer advocate at Edgio and co-host of JavaScript Jam. And before we get into our interview segment, I also wanted to give Dev a chance to intro himself and then give a bit of a sneak peek of the upcoming game show event we're doing. So, Dev, you want to intro yourself and just remind people what's going on there?
What is up, people? Hope you guys are enjoying this beautiful Wednesday afternoon. Thank you very much, Scott. I'm just here trying to put my game show hat on. Let's see if we can be a game show host. This is my first time. But if you guys haven't heard, or if you guys haven't met me already, my name is Dev. Nice to meet you all. I am also a media partner for React Miami. So if you guys are showing up next week in Miami, I'm looking forward to meeting you. And as a reminder, this week we are hosting a live game show with some of the React Miami speakers, and that is going to be fun. We will have some trivia questions around React, around some other adjacent technologies, some adjacent concepts, whatever the speakers are talking about. It's going to be a super fun, super insightful show. We're going to learn a lot about React, about all these things that the speakers are so motivated to talk about next week. But today I'm really looking forward to listening or hearing from Will and Henri about what their ideas are, what motivated you guys to give this talk or just like invest so much of your time into this topic, into this the small area of web development that you guys are talking about, that you guys are now experts in. And that's all for me. Also, appreciate the invite. Thanks for having me up here.
For sure. Yeah, cool. So why don't we dive in? We got Will's topic first in the titles. Completely random chance, but let's go ahead and let him start off.
Yeah, so I got started with the WebAuthn thing, of course, because at work I work for a security identity company, which is Auth by Okta, and it's so basically working there, right? Where you work for a security company, there's certain things that you got to do because they want to keep our data safe and the customer data safe and things like that, and you don't definitely won't want to be in the news because your employee got hacked or something like that. That would be like the worst. So because of that, we have like really, really strenuous things that we have to do for having passwords, like a lot of requirements. And it because it was annoying. Like typing in that password every day was super, super annoying because it was super long. I eventually memorized it, which I was surprised because it's like a ton of characters, but somehow I memorized it. But every day it got annoying typing in that password. And then we had a manual update to where we had to log in with our fingerprint on our work computer. And so fingerprint login's been around, right? It's always been on MacBooks. They got it on Android phones, had it on the iPhone with the Touch ID for a minute. We've had Face ID. We've always had the ability to not always, but we had the ability to log in for a while using something outside of a password. But I was always, I don't know, scared too. I'm like, I don't want them to have my fingerprint. And so then I was forced to, and then I was like, wow, this is so much better than entering in this out of control password every day. So I started to look more into it, like, okay, what's really going on? And that's how I started to learn about WebAuthn, because I literally hate passwords on so many different levels. And WebAuthn was super convenient and eliminated a tons of the issues I had with passwords. So that's when we start looking into using biometrics and other type of ways of logging in.
When you say it was out of control, like how many characters are we talking about?
I'll it was double digits, and it was less than 25. That's his but less than 25, but it had to be at least double digits.
I just checked. My master password is 26, which I do have memorized.
Yeah, I'm up there.
I have one that's like base level. Let me see if I can count it in my head. That's like base level, like 13. Oh no, wait, 1, 2, 3, 4. Yeah, it's base level. It's like 13, and then I add a particular sort of, you know,
A cipher.
Kinda. I kind of rot 13 it a bit. So I could be away from a particular service for a couple of years, but I'll probably get the password within like third try or something. By the way, rot 13 is when, for those, I just kind of threw it out there, but the rot 13 is when you add like 13 letters to a particular character. So I don't know, if you took A and took like the 14th letter and you did that with your entire like phrase, that's what they call rot 13. So I remember when I discovered that, I was like, oh, this is gangster. So I kind of kept that in mind ever since.
It's so gangster. This goes all the way back to Julius Caesar. This is a type of substitution cipher, which is I learned all this stuff when I got into crypto. It's actually a really fascinating history that goes back thousands of years.
Awesome.
Cool. Yeah. You want to talk a little more, Will, about kind of like why you? So you already kind of said like why you're interested in this topic. I guess. How does this relate specifically to like the work you do with Okta?
It relates because since Auth0 by Okta is a security company, and my particular part is for like consumer applications and SaaS applications, right? When you're using with when you're dealing with user data, we want to make sure that anyone who's building, with our SDKs or using our service is able to have strong authentication that they can trust, and it's easy for the users. Sometimes we have a lot of things that we try to do to add the passwords to make them more safe, which are also annoying, right? You have a password manager, right? Which is, yeah, you can do that, but does, my grandmother want to download a password manager? No, she just wants to log on and do the thing that she's trying to do. You can use an authenticator app and go back and forth between that code, or use multi-factor authentication. We constantly add things to passwords to make them more secure, instead of doing what I think personally is the smart thing, is to get rid of passwords. So because there are a lot of steps that goes into like handling biometrics, um, we can actually take out a lot of that friction and have you have that into your web application in a way that's standard, in a way that's secure, without having to worry about all the odds and ends that goes into it. So that's how the WebAuthn relates to um, Auth0 by Okta. And one of our like recent events that we had last year called Developer Days, where we went like different cities giving demos, was based upon like having a passwordless future, to where we can come in, we can log in with our fingerprint, with our face, with our voice, which I don't know, with AI, I don't know if that's going to be a good one going forward, but something that we own, that's on us, that we don't have to remember because it's part of us, and log in that way securely.
I got a question. But do you have any examples of any companies that have been that forward thinking and have actually implemented this, where maybe a startup or something that has just done away with passwords completely and only gone for biometric authorization?
That's a great question. And honestly, I do not. The only cases I know that people use it as a second, factor of authentication, is when, you log in with a password and then it says, use your Face ID or fingerprint to, go to the next
Right.
level.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure because I haven't turned it on, but I think Discover, I know that their app asked me to log in with Face ID. So
Yeah, I
maybe
got
they
that
might,
too. Yeah.
yeah. So that may be the only thing that I know personally that kind of has it, where you don't, but you still have to like register first with a
Right. That's what
username
I
and
was curious.
password.
Yeah, it would be interesting, to see if there was a case where that actually has played out and it has had success. Because I wonder if it would defer people from signing up who are, not comfortable with it, or how many people are actually not comfortable with it, and nowadays,
Yeah,
I don't know,
yeah, and that's the thing, right? Password's been around for so long. Just like Anthony said, since Julius Caesar, it's kind of what people are comfortable with. So just like I said, how my grandma wouldn't want to download a password manager, she probably wouldn't want to put her fingerprint on it to log in either. And that's mainly because, it's just hard for people to change. For years and years, we use passwords, and it's kind of been the way. So it's going to take some time to get people to switch over to something different.
I think one of the
Agreed.
challenges, and I'm not super well versed in password and whatnot, but I think one of the challenges has always been the strength of the password. I believe that often enough people just don't go in and put together a password that is comfortably strong, right? So that being said, and whatever, I'm not, like I said, I'm far from being a password expert, but couple sort of streams or a couple channels I watch on YouTube. If anyone's familiar with Compu, I forget, but it's like a bunch of math and computer wizards. They have a channel, and I've watched just like the 2 or 3 part series on passwords, and they talk about what is a strong password, what isn't, because a lot of times it's about people using words. So often enough, they talk about like splitting the words up in like 2 or 3 parts. So sometimes these words may not make sense on paper, but it'll be stuck in your head. But I'm also curious because I think we've also had an increase of um, uh, computer power. Like CPUs are a lot faster, and computers could really kind of scan through uh, potential passwords in mere seconds now. And I was watching this demo where they were doing it, and that's why I was like, oh, so that's why they're saying like the easier the password, obviously, the quicker it'll be. It can be sort of like found and whatnot. So uh, I get back to this whole idea of literacy, and which I'll talk about eventually. So I think that if people are taught differently about passwords, you may get a different outcome. But I think a lot of people are like, hey, I'm just going to use my date of birth, and it's like, boom, done, found in minutes, that kind of stuff. So I think about that a lot.
Yeah, I mean, you're absolutely right. There isn't a lot of good passwords chosen. I think the most common password that's like got leaked is like soccer 123 or something like that. I believe that's it. It could have changed. That was a few years ago.
Nah, dude, it's way worse. The most common password in the world is 1234556.
Oh man,
No joke.
But that's like the part where I think about it. I try to think of it from the user's perspective. Um, is that we think about how many times we have to create passwords because now because everyone wants your data, they want to send you emails, they want to give you a Facebook pixel so they can track you on 47 different websites, right? You have to create a password for so many things. It kind of get from a user perspective, it kind of gets exhausting. Like I don't know if people seen a tweet that I sent out the other day, or it wasn't from me, but it was something I retweeted for someone else. And it was like, I ain't got no more passwords in me, bruh. Like that's what somebody said. And that tweet got lots of likes, lots of views. It's like trying to come up with a secure password is a lot of work for the average user when all they're trying to do is buy a pizza, right? I can see if it's like your bank, or like your unemployment information or something like secure like that. But if all you're trying to do is, like for example, I had to volunteer coach for my daughter's soccer team. Like I just wanted to coach, sign the waiver, and keep it moving. Like I didn't really want to think of how can I create a secure password because it's not really something important. It's probably the only time I'll log into that portal. So I think instead of asking the user or putting more work on the user to keep their stuff secure, we kind of get rid of the problem, which is the passwords in general, because there's already too many. I think they said like the average person has 108, like just all through their internet history. That's a lot. And trying to make all of those unique, it's not even happening. Like no one's making like 108 unique passwords. And you could use a password manager, but it's like it's another thing to do when, and again, this is me personal experience. I can just press a button on my laptop and I'm in, and I don't have to worry about any of that stuff.
Yeah, I'm a big fan of my password manager because it has the thumbprint on my computer, and then I use the face for my phone. I was a little worried about the face one for a while because I know that, like, the thing I was always thinking is, like, well, what if someone just, like, took my phone, just, like, put it up to my face? And then I saw a setting where if, like, you don't look at it, then it won't open up. So, like, if someone tried to put up your face, you just, like, close your eyes. I don't know if that's actually gonna work or not, but at this point, I don't think I need OPSEC that strong because I'm just a DevRel and none of the secrets are on my computer. I don't worry about it too much, but for the most part, like, I really enjoy having the convenience of being able to do that, and then I then generate passwords that are then kind of filled in by the thumbprint. So that's been a pretty good workflow for me. We're gonna hop around a little bit in this space. I want to give Henri a chance to kind of give his talk pitch. I know he'll have to hop at a certain point as well. But we'll let Henri speak, give his little pitch, and then we'll open it up for the crowd if anyone wants to come up and ask questions of either of you about your talks.
Yeah, for sure. Thanks. And to sort of, well, sort of close out a statement from my end with regards to passwords and all the means or the new means by which, we might be able to sort of generate one. I think there's going to be sort of like a user experience hurdle, and I think the idea that some of these new methods of securing, your data through like thumbprint or face or whatever, um, I think will also require a bit of an opt-in before it's really kind of widely adopted. Because I'll tell you right now, like about I think sometime last year, I was like checking in for a flight, and they're like, "Yeah, look into the camera." I'm like, "Why?" It's like my passport is here. They're like, "No, no, no, look into the camera." I'm like, "No, no, no, scan my passport." You know, and even though they have all the information from my passport, it's still the idea that they just kind of like wanted just a shot of me when they really had all the information they had right there. So I think there's going to be a little bit of, like I said, I think some explaining to do to get some of that sort of sorted. So, but that being said,
Yeah.
it'll be interesting.
That's so interesting you say that. Do you recall was that here in the States?
Oh, absolutely.
Oh, wow. That's crazy. Because I remember when I went to China, that definitely happened. Even when you get off a freaking bus, public transportation, they go through and take pictures of every single person sitting in the
Yep.
seat.
Yeah, it's crazy.
Crazy.
So,
yeah.
That being said, I'll get into my little bit real quick. So, as I mentioned a few years ago, I had this idea of just kind of like a friendly lightning talk presentation where I kind of went through the alphabet and I associated every letter with a performance technology or a term or attribute or something of the sort. And this is actually at Google. And I just remember the response. People were like, I really had fun with this, and just gave me a bunch of reasons why. And I had it. I always used it as a lightning talk, given the opportunity. But then, sometime last year, I decided to kind of expand it and just make it like a longer version. And essentially, it's kind of like a way I try to onboard people into performance, in the sense that I do realize, especially today in 2013, performance is a lot more complicated, and there's a lot of stuff that people haven't heard or come across or whatnot. So, in order to sort of like help promote the literacy around performance, I decided to sort of bring this to Miami for the conference, and you know I can give this on any occasion, no matter the framework to an extent, and it's really about just the web and what is sort of like on the web, what we see, so at a web page test, we'll sit there and we'll scan the site and we're like, okay, this is what it looks like when you sort of look under the hood, and we talk about it. And so with this presentation, which is called R is for React, it's really just kind of going through performance terminologies that people may or may not know, but I'm actually going to add a twist to it by adding content that has to do with React and what we see from React sites on the web, right? So, for example, I think in this little trailer that I put up on my Twitter profile, which was the fact that I don't know what I talked about, but I gave like a percentage of React sites that have, what was it? Either way. But, for example, I'll say something like, those of you out there who might be familiar with, I don't know, like image formats, I might say like A stands for AVIF, and I might go into the sort of, the technical details of the AVIF format, why it's a little smaller than the WebP, why it's smaller than the JPEG and things like that, and why, that the fact that Chrome supports it since I think Chrome 85. But then I might tell you like, this is the percentage of React sites that are using AVIF right now, right? So I'll take a snapshot of the web and React sites in particular, and we pull data out of it, through various means like HTTP archive or Crux or BigQuery specifically, which again has to do with the archive. And we'll use that. We're able to sort of look at the web and say, okay, AVIF is still not, used widely on the web, right? Or I might talk about, say, Core Web Vitals, right? I might go say, hey, C is for Core Web Vitals, and here's why it's important, go into the details, and then I'll tell you that, that's what it was. React sites, 53% of them have a, LCP of 2.5 seconds or longer. And then I'll go into the details as to why that may not be the best user experience, X, Y, and Z. So, and imagine that from A to Z. And it's really, like I said, it'll feel like this onboarding process about, what's happening on the web. And I usually associate it with data as well, so you can have a better idea. And yeah, I mean, I want to do that simply because, again, in my experience giving talks, I'll bring up some topics and people are just kind of, I've never heard of this. And it's like, okay, cool. I'm not telling you it's a bad thing that you haven't, but let me tell you about it. So I want to make sure that, people can leave having this sort of, idea of what it's like, developing React sites. We'll tell you, like, some of the data will, bring up potentially some oversights that the majority of people experience, and yeah, I mean it's going to be a fun talk. I love discussing some of this data because it's pretty eye opening, and these are things that you'll never know until you pop the hood, and that's why we're here. We pop the hood and we'll let you know what's going on.
Awesome. I want to encourage people to please come up and ask some questions. And yeah, he made a comment about how, in 2023, performance is a little more complicated. I think that's a understatement of the century. As someone who's been involved in performance for so long, like, what is it that makes it more complicated now than in the past?
Oh man, there's so much stuff. I talk about this a lot. Like, I try to compare it. Actually, I was supposed to give a talk about this tomorrow, where I was going to compare, performance to running, specifically track and field. So, I tell people all the time, for those who are familiar with like sprinting, 100 meter, 200 meters, you come out the blocks. And, pardon me, there's a reason why sprinters spend an inordinate amount of time on their jump out the blocks. They don't want to foul out, false start, but they want to make sure they get the best start possible. Why? Because if you're laid out the blocks, there's a good chance you're probably not going to win. In web performance, we have some of the same. I can tell you right now, if you have a slow time to first byte, which is pretty much the first metric that we pick up in web performance audits, if it's slow, there's a good chance your site will be slow in the end. So slow start, slow end. We talk about things like, the ability to preload some assets now, because we want to make sure that a particular asset comes in as quickly as possible. And that means that, I'm sorry, you'll indicate to the browser, you're like, hey, I know I'm going to send down about 200 assets right now, or I have 200 requests. I want this one request to be the absolute priority because it's going to be my LCP candidate, largest contentful paint. And why is the largest contentful paint important? Well, for those who follow things like Lighthouse scores, it's one of the elements that is most crucial in providing the best experience and a decent score. It's also the reason why it's one of the 3 core web vitals, right? So we get into a really an interesting scenario of decision making in performance today, right? You can have a pretty busy site, but still provide a really good user experience because you've made decisions along the way as to what gets prioritized, what resource gets loaded as quickly as possible while the others play the back burner, right? So it's a bit of a game of Jenga at times. Obviously, nothing's going to fall down, but you start to make these decisions as to, okay, what's going to be the best, what's going to provide the best user experience. And it does require a level of literacy and understanding how resources operate, how the web operates, how browsers operates. By the way, folks, I'll tell you right now, and this is my personal belief, the browser is the greatest piece of application on the planet. It allows you to do so much stuff you wouldn't even believe. But it also can assist you in making some of the best decisions possible when it comes to performance as well. So once you understand how browsers work as well, you'll have a better understanding of performance. And then, like I said, there's some technologies out there that once you know how they work, performance is like a completely different story. So I hope that answers your questions.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I've got a little bit into Core Web Vitals and not as deep into the actual like browser mechanics themselves, but I find that it's such a great topic to dive into and to specialize in because it's something that touches everybody, regardless of whether you're desktop user, mobile user, Apple or Android. It really doesn't matter how you're accessing the web. You're accessing it through a browser pretty much exclusively. So it's just so consequential.
Absolutely. And, it's a good thing you mentioned the browser bit. I mean, the mobile and desktop bit. Somewhere in 2016, the fall of 2016, the biggest shift happened. It went under the radar, but it's something that I bring up quite often in some of my talks. You know, the browser or the internet was being accessed by mobile more so than desktop for the first time in history. And that happened in fall in 2016. So that's a stat that will never go back. You're never going to see a resurgence of desktop. So that being said, we look at data, yes, desktop data, but more so mobile data, simply because that's what people use almost all the time. And I'll give you some data right here is that it's kind of like a 6-to-4 ratio right now, roughly, for mobile. And once you get into busier and more popular sites, like the top 100, top 10,000, top 1,000, that ratio jumps to 8-to-2. So 80% of some of the top sites are being accessed on mobile. So once you know that data, you start to really look at the web differently. Like, are you sending all these massive assets down the wire so that people could look at it on the mobile device? I hope not. So, we start to make, decisions based on the traffic, right? If you know you're mostly mobile traffic, why are you providing desktop assets? Right? We start to look at things like that, and hopefully through some literacy, we get people to understand that this is really happening. And because we operate by looking under the hood all day long, and we see these oversights.
Yeah, I remember there's this term I used to hear a lot when I was learning web dev. Where we talked about mobile first development, and the way the term was being used was like super, super narrow. It was basically like you should design for a narrow screen first. And it's like there's a lot more things that go into the difference between mobile and desktop than just like the size of the screen. So I think thinking of mobile first development as like, what does that mean for performance? What does that mean for usability? What does that mean for accessibility? And it makes a lot more sense to build in a mobile first way, but the length of considerations that go into that is just so massive. And to me, it's kind of sad because it's like, I'm on the web hours and hours a day. I use my phone a lot. I use a laptop a lot, and just the phone experience is almost universally worse on almost every single site because it's going to be slower. It's going to be harder to see things. The ads are going to be more obtrusive. There's just like so many things that make it a worse experience, and that's the most common way that people are accessing the site, most likely, as you're saying. So it's a sad state of affairs, honestly.
Yeah, absolutely. Listen, there are people, like, for the most part, I think, I'm looking at the room right here. I think for the most part, people first got on the web on a desktop computer, crappy as it was, maybe. Leave North America. And there are people, their first web experience was on a mobile device. And there's a generation who will experience the web almost exclusively on mobile for their entire lives. We have data showing that, in some cases, the experience is anywhere from 2.5 to 3 point something times worse on mobile devices because they cannot parse and process, say, JavaScript as well as a desktop. You know, there's a metric that's not going to be maybe not an official metric, but it is something that the performance working group, is considering, and it's one called the rage click, which I'll probably talk about in Miami. So no spoilers, but it's about users tapping consistently on a particular area of the screen because things are not moving, right? They're not being responsive. Uh, you talked about was it mobile first? There's an API that's not being used a lot, but it's called the Network Information API that I always thought was fascinating when I first discovered it. You can base some of the resources that you're sending down the wire. You can base it on the user's connectivity, right? So if the user's on, say, like a really bad 2G-ish connectivity, you can say, I don't know, send an SVG instead of a full raster image, right? These are the tools, these are the sort of APIs we have to our disposal. And that's why, again, I get back to the idea that literacy is going to change how development, or performance literacy could certainly change how development is done because you understand what's at stake.
Definitely. I just pinned a link to that up top. Cool. So how does performance and security intersect? or does it?
It does actually. Well, let the Fresh Prince of JavaScript get into that.
I haven't gone in depth on the topic, so I probably wouldn't have the best answer, but I can see how slow performance, at least from a user's perspective, can make something seem insecure, or maybe even the term janky, and make it less trustworthy.
Yeah, that's a good point. I would also say, if someone is frustrated about the speed of something, they're going to want a faster solution. And when it comes to security, usually faster is less secure and slower is more secure. This is kind of like one of those fundamental laws that just making something more secure usually means adding more steps. So, it's not like literal like web page loading thing, like having to stop, go get a two-factor auth code, go plug that in. There may be multiple redirects. There may be a lot going on there. So that could be kind of one thing that could cause the two to intersect with each other.
I mean, we look for vulnerabilities as well. Sometimes particular versions that are being used aren't updated or something of the sort, and at which point, your browser, again, the greatest tool on the planet, the greatest application on the planet, might actually block it, right? And then you end up with a situation where you have a potentially, a resource you absolutely need for your web app to sort of operate properly. But, if it's not meeting a particular security standard, uh, it may not load. And then you suddenly have a sort of like SPOF, single point of failure potentially, and then your whole application goes down the tubes, right? So, uh, you know, we spend a lot of time looking at waterfalls, and we talked about earlier. We talked about fingerprints. I mean, the waterfall is almost like the web's fingerprint. Like, what is going on here? And we'll see things, and that's what, again, we talk about. Every single resource on a page um, has impact in performance, right? So how is it being loaded? How big the resource is? Is it a blocking resource, et cetera, et cetera. I feel like I'm getting away from my React talk here, which is all good.
Yeah, for sure. I just want to once again let everyone know, like, we're welcome to join and ask some questions. We got these two awesome speakers up here willing to chat with you. Scott, you want to give us a station break while that happens?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you so much. Appreciate it. Hey, guys. Will, Henri, thank you so much for joining us and giving your bit on your talks that you're going to be doing React Miami, and just a little bit of good conversation, really, more than anything. And we always appreciate that. Thank you so much. I want to say, hey, if you're new here, thank you so much for joining us. You are amazing. No, really, you are. Thank you. And also, whether you're a beginner or a long-time developer, doesn't matter. We want to hear from everybody. So, like Anthony was saying, feel free to request to come up, ask questions, state opinions, whatever you'd like to do. We want to hear from you, because you bring more value to here. And by the way, if you've gotten value from Fresh Prince here, Will or Henri, please, or anybody else that has been speaking up here, please feel free to click on their face there and follow them if you're not already. Because I promise you, if you feel like you've gotten some value from them here, you're going to get value from them in other places, and you're going to want to hear and follow them. So do it. And, of course, JavaScript Jam wouldn't mind a follow too, because because you don't want to miss out on everything that we do every week, because we do this every Wednesday, 12 p.m. Pacific Standard Time. Plus, we are doing a collaboration with React Miami and a few other events. In fact, Remix is coming up. Remix Conference. Hey, we're going to be doing that too. So just kind of throwing those things out there for y'all. But super excited and so glad to have these two amazing people on here today with us, speaking about their passions and where they lie, and what what we can do to improve upon some of these things, and just what to or just gain knowledge on. So I'm super excited for all that. All right, y'all. Let's continue. Oh, wait, one last thing. Actually, my apologies. If you have not already subscribed to our JavaScript Jam newsletter, which you would have known that Henri and Fresh Prince here, Will, was joining us today, please check it out. You're going to get some value from it, I promise. And you don't want to miss out on the latest in the web development and JavaScript arena there. And Anthony writes that, actually, and he's been improving that thing beyond leaps and bounds. It looks amazing, phenomenal, actually. There's so much good information in there. So feel free to jump on that by going to javascriptjam.com and obviously putting in your email so you can start receiving our newsletter there and be in the know of who we have coming up to join us here on the stage on Wednesdays. So, and one other thing, just two other things actually, just shouting out Deb's thing that we're doing. The game show that we're doing called Miami Jam on Friday. Be on the lookout for that. I'm sure we'll be going and streaming live to YouTube, Twitter, and I think we're going to be streaming to Dev's Twitch account as well. So look out in those places for us. We're going to be having some of the React Miami speakers on there to do this game show, like Dev spoke of earlier. So super excited for that.
Also, one quick thing about that, if it's going to be kind of a trivia-based game show, if you guys have any ideas, any fun questions that you think we should ask our speakers, please let me know. Please, you can DM me or tweet at me.
Yeah. Awesome.
Anything React adjacent, and you can also have screenshots or snippets around the question if you want to.
Great idea. Yeah, if you want to be involved, that's a great way to be involved with that as well. Plus, hey, the audience, we want to take questions from you guys live as well too. So feel free to join us live, and if you have anything you want to submit free streams, then hit up Dev in the DMs. That'd be good. Awesome. And and then also Anthony and I have our new thing that we do on Thursdays, which is kind of a little bit of a
Scott,
journey.
adventure.
Yes, Anthony and Scott's web development adventure. So join us tomorrow on that. All right, that's it. Thank you so much.
You said one more thing 5 or 6 times, I think.
I know. Right. one more.
But I will say one more thing before I have to bounce, because I do have a meeting
awesome.
at 4, at the top of the hour. I think one of the reasons, I remember, I see Michelle who just popped in, and it's ironic that she should come in because I'm about to quote her, is that I remember when I applied to speak, she was like, hey, I didn't realize you were into React. And the one thing, there are a couple of things actually. The one thing is that I'm into the web, so if you're showing up on the web, I'm curious. And that, I think, is the one area in web performance that I absolutely love, because, we'll sit there and look under the hood under any site. It could be a Vue site, could be a Svelte, could be React, obviously, it could be whatever. And, we're passionate about that. We want to see what kind of patterns, are existing with some of these frameworks, and, how they can be best maximized for performance. So it's not really a React thing. It's it's just, are you on the web? Cool. Let's talk about it. Now, I have been spending a little bit of time in the React space, simply because I think React is absolutely established. 10 years next month. And I don't think it's really slowing down. If anything, I feel like it's picking up steam again. So we like to see what's going on. We like to see what how people are developing sites, how they're showing up on the web. and what kind of user experience they're providing overall. And the one thing I want to say before I jump out is the following. And one of the things that has been super duper interesting is the fact that the modern web is pretty complex. As Anthony said, like if you start to look at web performance, it's gotten complex because the web has gotten complex. And we're trying to make the best of these complexities in providing good user experiences. And the one thing that has been pretty shocking to some of us in the web performance space, once upon a time, the heaviest asset was pretty much always going to be an image. Like that was just easy peasy. It's like, what's your heavy asset? Oh, images, come on, especially PNGs, lossless, whatever. We are coming across scenarios, and quite often actually, where now the heaviest assets on a page is JavaScript. Like a text-based asset is the heaviest resource. And honestly, it's kind of mind-blowing to think about. But what is now happening is that it's really just kind of providing sometimes a corrosive experience that you can't necessarily notice by just looking at the page. It looks pretty, it's got awesome colors. Under the hood, it's like tornadoes. And this is what we are looking at a lot closely now, a lot closer, simply because, again, we could talk about new metrics like the rage click. That has come about through this sort of like this abundance of JavaScript that is coming down the wire. And, we're here to sort of see if we can provide solutions in helping that out. That being said, folks, thank you very much for having me. Like I said, unfortunately, I have to jump out.
Thank you for joining us, man. Good to have you. Hope to see you in Miami.
Absolutely,
I know
man.
I'll see you in Miami.
I'll see you guys in Miami. Apparently, I'll need my umbrella. So I know Will's going to have those short shorts.
You already know.
All right, then. Okay, cheers, folks.
All right, man. Thanks.
Yeah, I was gonna ask. We can just ask, I guess. Will, aside from kind of the rain situation, are there things you're looking forward to about Miami specifically? Just like either the culture or an event or like just the vibe, any of that. I want to go see the FTX arena personally.
Yeah, yeah, man. I'm like, Miami's like my home away from home, man. Like, so this is like my third time going in the last year. I love Miami. I was at React Miami last year. Took my wife there on like a little vacation a couple months ago, and they actually renamed FTX Arena because of the whole thing.
Yeah, no, that's the joke. Yeah.
But yeah, so I'm looking forward to also last year I took my wife. This year I'm taking my wife with me as well as my two daughters. So I'm excited for them to get to experience, something that I really, really enjoy. Hopefully it doesn't rain too bad, like let them get to go to the beach. I'm excited to eat at Bodega. It's a restaurant down there. They have the Tierra y Mar Quesadillas, which is land and sea or something like that. I think when you translate it, it's steak and shrimp, and it is delicious. Like, oh my God, I can't wait to eat. First thing I'm doing when I hop off the plane is going to Bodega. And then we have beach volleyball on Friday morning for the Choose Your Developer Health Journey. You can run for a 30-minute run with Henri. There's a yoga on the beach, and then there's beach volleyball with me. And I may or may not have some Miami appropriate swag for the people who come play beach volleyball. I may or may not. So you have to show up to see if I do or not. And then just chilling with everybody. Like last time it was great. I met a lot of people in person from Twitter. Got to hang out, have like real life conversations. And so yeah, I'm excited to get back. Like everything, there's 10-10, 2010 excitement for me.
I just want to make a point that you mentioned Bodega, and everybody in this call if you are in Miami and you do not go to Bodega, you have made a grave mistake.
Yes.
I'm taking a small group to Bodega on the first day, including the person who sponsored me, Michael Leando, who's also a speaker at React Miami. So if anybody wants to join this small group, it's a 5-minute Uber ride. I'm putting together the group in WhatsApp. And yeah, we're going to go eat some bomb food and hang out. So let me know.
Yeah, I'm gonna need to get added to that group because I'm already planning on going to Bodega like every day, but now I can go twice. So add me to that group too.
All right, I'll shoot you a follow and grab your number off DM.
All right. And also one more thing that I'm really excited about is with Auth0, we're sponsoring the diversity scholarship with React Miami. So we're going to provide some people's tickets to that event, and it's like part of an initiative that I'm trying to do with Auth0 and like support emerging developers. For the people who don't know, I'm like a self-taught developer. Taught myself, still kind of new to the industry, in my opinion, compared to other people. I think I'm like 3 years in now. And I want to be able to help those people who are coming up along the way because I understand their experience, I understand their fears, and kind of like help guide them. So we're doing the diversity scholarship, and I'm actually going to take those people out and show them a good time as well. So that's another thing I'm really, really excited about, and to meet those people, hear their stories, hear their experiences, and hopefully build some long time relationships and give them some advice that'll help them in their careers.
If it's cool, after I get your number, I would love to join that little group as well because I'm a new dev and I also got sponsored because I'm from an underrepresented group. So I'd love to meet like fellow underrepresented newbies in tech, probably first time conference goers. I think that would be really cool.
Yeah, let's make it happen.
Yes, I love the connections that spaces can make a reality and happen. Dude, it's so cool. Even just, one person getting help, during a space or getting linked up or networked with somebody it's worth it all, for real. That did it for me there. Thank you so much for that. Appreciate it. All right.
Awesome. Yeah, go ahead, Scott.
No, yeah, I think that just about sums it up for the call today. Anthony, did you have anything else?
No, just super excited for React Miami. Thanks, Will and Henri, for joining us. Henri's not here anymore. And then thank you, Michelle, for hopping up for a bit. Thank you, Alexis, for joining us once again. Thank you, Dev, for helping organize this cool event we're doing with the game show. And yeah, this is just like such a cool team of people. Been really stoked to get to do all this.
100%. Totally agree. And thanks, Michelle, for chiming in for a little bit today with us. Appreciate it. Yeah, it's been awesome. You guys are great. And I'm really looking forward to Miami. Yeah, it just sounds like such a cool thing. So, all right. And I love good food. So I'll definitely have to check that place out. All right, y'all. Thank you so much. And remember, if you got value from somebody up here, click on the face, follow them if you haven't already, because you're missing out. Obviously, you're going to get value from them in other places too. But yeah, with that being said, we will see you in the next one. Oh, it's always a good time. All right, thanks. Love y'all. Peace.